Are you missing someone right now, or basically in general? Are you thinking of them usually too much, or well, you're just spending time thinking about them, not necessarily too much, but you're thinking about them and how things were, how things could have been? Well, there is a general misconception that I would speak about and, well, present a point of view, obviously, with drawing people's attention that they shouldn't take what I say for granted, nor, uh, well, just use everything I say with a grain of salt. The point is, many people have been told this fact that the only reason you're thinking about someone out of a sudden is because they are thinking of you. Now, people simply don't know too many things about the mind, and well, the mind is an aspect that, just like the solar system, just like the whole universe, the mind functions in cycles. The more you think of a certain thing, be it a person, be it any kind of idea, the point is you're creating a cycle because you're technically creating life. In order to think about something, you need to create a certain sense of physicality. A thought is basically a sense of physicality, and that thought is created out of your energy field, out of your own energy. That is why people who overthink are constantly tired, but they're not doing anything necessarily physically. So the point about this is when you think too much about something, be it someone as well, the point is you're creating constant cycles. Now these cycles don't have a specific time in which they repeat, but you can actually handle that. Now, if you pay very close attention, usually in your house, your bed area is where you'll spend most of the time, or quite some time. Now, if you take great attention in your house, you will see that if you don't think about anything, certain specific thoughts may actually pop up into your head. Because the more you think about some things, you leave some energy imprints in there. So next time you come there, you may have already forgotten what you were thinking, but the imprints will simply remind you. And that's how the same thoughts will pop up into your head. If you're thinking constantly about someone when you're in bed, then you go to work, most likely at work you won't be, you know, able to distract yourself with thoughts about that person, right? But again, even if you think about that person, thoughts are very powerful. So the point is, you leave those imprints, and again, in time, those want to simply become pure. Any thought that isn't turned into reality will seek to become one with the universe. So basically, it will seek to cleanse itself. In order to cleanse itself, you just have to think about it without any judgment, and you have to simply let it go. Because many people, when they think about things, they think about the situation, but they think emotionally. They attach a lot of emotion, and that is like gravity. You're keeping that, energy close to you. So basically, you're creating junk out of nothing. You have pure energy, which you're turning into junk, which simply exists in your auric field. And the more of that you have, the more unpleasant you usually tend to become for others. Because people can unconsciously feel how we are. And the way you feel is a direct result of how you tend your own energies. So the point is, if you're thinking about someone, you're obviously thinking about things that happened in the past. So basically, you're not living life because you're not thinking in the present. Whoever they were, they're not necessarily thinking about you. You're thinking about them because you have created some cycles in your mind, and those cycles are constantly repeating because the more you think about something, the stronger the cycle. And that is why in time you will probably find it hard to simply give up thinking on someone or something. Just like dependencies, right? The more you play a video game, the more it gets you hooked, right? But it gets you hooked because of the energy that you have spent in it and the amount of neurons you have turned, into machines that will remember basically what you need, right? Your arc reflexes, the knowledge that you have, all requires neurons to function. The more are allocated, the more for your brain that activity to which you allocate more neurons becomes of a higher priority. The brain is basically like an AI. It doesn't know what a good priority or a bad priority is. The more you do of something, it will simply support that because it believes that, well, focusing a lot of energy on something must be important, right? Don't forget that the brain doesn't think for itself. If the brain thought for itself, you couldn't be so suicidal like so many people are, right? Drinking coke and such, which, eating unhealthily, not sleeping correctly, right? Not handling your energies correctly. All these happen because the brain doesn't function for itself. It doesn't have any self-preservation. It doesn't have any awareness. It's just a tool. How you use it, it's your full responsibility. So when you're thinking too much about someone, it's because you have invested a lot of energy, and the body functions on a simple premise. The more energy you invest into something, it must be something very good, so it is automatically placed as a greater priority. Then comes in another part of you, which is called your intellect. Your intellect simply supports whatever you believe in. Remember all those times where you had people, and probably you're still suffering from that today, people who tell you that you're bad, you're never good enough, and the such? You know, when you accept a certain idea, you can probably recall that when that idea is accepted, everything that seems to be whirling around that idea, you actually see it. For example, if you have low esteem, right? Every time someone says something nice, you're not gonna take that into account. It's not gonna account for you because you're sure, right? You're convinced that you suck, that you're not good enough, and the such. And this, unfortunately, is a very good way to rule people. So if someone says something bad, it doesn't have to be specifically aimed at you. They're just cursing around because they've had a bad day. You might instantly believe that they are cursing you specifically, right? Or you might actually be sworn at by other people, and obviously you're gonna specifically take that into account. Before you took your driving license, you most likely weren't aware of how many, um, drivers, driver school cars there are around. Those cars that, people drive along with an attendant before they actually, hop on into the exam, right? There are those special cars that people drive so that they gain their experience, right? But after you become a driver, you're most likely gonna be very aware of those specific cars, right? Because now they are in your center of awareness. If you're not aware of things, well, the point is you're not gonna notice them. It's the same with the intellect. If it is not used well, it can be a very great hindrance. That is why people who have tunnel vision, they simply don't take into account too many things because their intellect, they have taught it to simply support whatever they want, right? They're not allowing their intellect to support whatever simply functions, right? Whatever the body would feel in its unconsciousness as a great aspect, as something good. Because if you don't have a trained mind, if you don't learn how to use your own energies, you will simply think of all sorts of things and end up believing all sorts of things. Don't forget, this world is not meant to save you or help you. New Age spiritualists aren't here to make you spiritual, because spiritual means being beyond the mind. Spiritual means looking for answers within, not outside on YouTube videos and such. Some of those ideas on those spiritual videos may actually help you, but they are just instruments for the mind. Don't forget, the more you put into your mind, the simply the mind is given more tools through which it can screw you over if you are not aware of how your mind functions. The mind is a very good tool for distraction. That is why people who are pained, they will always overthink, because overthinking is a good distraction from their pains. But a distraction is just like a pill. It simply is anesthesia. It doesn't basically kill the pain, it just makes you numb to it. So the problem and the pain aren't away, but at least you're having an impression that you're feeling better. So just because you're thinking about someone, just remember they're not necessarily thinking about you. They might still be dead, but the fact that you're thinking about them, you're just thinking about a version of them in the past. They might not even be like that anymore. They might be worse, they might be better, they might be still the same, they might be dead long since. But in your mind you're still thinking about them, so basically they're still alive. And the more you think about them, you're kind of invoking that past version of them, which most likely ain't gonna be any more supportive of you. So, all this being said, hopefully this video was introspective enough. You are appreciated. Take care of yourselves. Ferin Jan Bor signing out.